Speaking about you personally, your image, I mean, you're obviously renowned worldwide, really. What sort of example do you think you actually set?
It depends. I think I set a lot of different examples. I think that I make people look at the way music can be approached differently. The fact that you can be counterculture and pop culture at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I make people think differently about beauty and looks, and that you can take something that would normally be unacceptable or unattractive and make it interesting.
Yeah.
I try and really invert anything that's a standard.
It must be very difficult for you to really be misrepresented in a way, because your actual agenda is so off the channel anyway. That is there anything that you consider to still be obscene in art that you've yet to?
Well, I set out from the beginning to establish myself as someone who is the worst, and there's nothing that you could say about me that could damage me in any way. So that way, I only had up to go. So it made it easier for me as an artist, as a person.
Yeah. Is there anything though that you would rule out? How far would you go?
Absolutely, it's never my desire just to go far for the sake of it. I think I'll do things if they have a purpose, if it helps express what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And with anything, you can go farther than anyone if you do it the right way. But if you do it for the wrong reasons or without any sort of artistic element to it, then it comes off as shocking or silly or base. But that's kind of what sets things apart from being relevant and just being shocking.
Yeah. Are you happy with having an image of sort of the self-styled Satan of rock?
Well, the fact that people say what I basically tell them, in a sense, to say when it comes to the media, I might as well be writing their stories for them, because it's very simple the way it operates, and I know as being a journalist, that's the image that I've wanted to portray, because even the word Satan itself just represents rebellion. So I just like to do what I expect the least and what others expect the least.
Mm-hmm.
I still like to try and surprise myself sometimes.
Did you have you read the Bible, and did you go to church when you were a kid or anything?
I've read the Bible many times. I probably know more about it than most Christians do. And I think there's a lot of really important things to be drawn from it, and different things than most Christians, particularly in America, take from it. It's used more as a tool of fear and exploitation than it is trying to gain any real knowledge from.
The simple fact that you have such a huge audience and a number of people that are interested in your music must suggest that you're doing something that, no matter how, in a way, perverse, is saying something to people. I mean, you are reaching out to people that feel as though they've been let down, isolated, all the rest of it.
I think it's rather traditional part of rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what any rock star's job, in a sense, is supposed to be. You know? I don't consider myself the first in any way. I think for me it was people like Jim Morrison. I think was the very first thing that I ever read about that really got me interested in that type of an idea.
Okay. How did Brian Warner, as was, develop into Marilyn Manson?
I think Marilyn Manson, just as a name and by discovering it and defining it, enabled me to fulfill my dreams and say and do the things that before that I was too afraid to do. I didn't have that belief in myself. So I don't ever think I changed as much as I evolved. Maybe it was more of a cocoon or something.
What sort of stage of your life did you actually decide that was going to happen? You know, how old were you when it actually manifested itself completely?
Well, I think when I started the band, it just kind of struck me instantly. I must have had some sort of calling from God.
You were
I'm not really sure where it came from.
You were working in Miami, I believe, as a music writer.
That's right.
So you must you've obviously got a lot of knowledge of the mechanics of these things and a good perception of all of that. Do you find that the baggage that's associated with Marilyn Manson actually gets in the way of the message?
No, because the baggage is part of the message.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part of the baggage is going through customs.
How natural does it feel the way you are perceived, and is it sort of a mask that you actually remove at certain times, or is it always there for you?
I don't ever remove my personality. I don't wake up and go to bed, dressed as I do when I'm in public, but neither does anyone else. But I don't consider myself to be playing a role or to be wearing a costume or a mask or anything like that. I just enjoy expressing myself through the way I look, and my personality is always the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's and there's not one easy level to my personality. Most people will probably think that I'm schizophrenic because I behave quite differently in each situation. But that's only because I'm not afraid to. I think everybody has that in them, but most people think that that's a bad thing, but I don't.
How do your family feel about the way you are now?
They're very supportive. My mother, I think, was always such an Elvis fan that this for her is her way of having her own Elvis. And my father likes to sometimes come on the road because he's a dirty old man and he likes to try and pick up young girls.
Do you think Brian Warner may actually one day kill off Marilyn Manson as Bowie did with Ziggy Stardust?
No, I think unfortunately Marilyn Manson killed Brian Warner, so there's no coming back on that.
No going back. Do you feel an affinity with Bowie or any other characters such as him who've used performance? So
I think he was one of the best at doing at becoming a chameleon. I think Madonna was also quite good at that, and Prince even to a certain extent.
Musically speaking, which of those or which influences have been particularly important for Marilyn Manson?
All of them in different ways. Sometimes musical influences will be more literal, and sometimes they'll be more about the spirit. On this record, the influences of Lennon, I think, aren't musically obvious. If I of some of what he had to say is there. Other times, the influences of like the Sex Pistols or the Stooges is musically obvious. So they all manifest in different ways.
What scares you, if anything?
It's hard for me to find things to be afraid of. Generally, just not being able to do what I want. that would be the worst fear.
What do you dream about?
It depends, Sometimes sex with teenage girls, other times the end of the world, other times, strange, it's hard. That would be hard to answer. I usually try and put my dreams into my songs.
Right.
But, I haven't dreamt a lot lately. I think that maybe my mind's been so occupied that I haven't had time to rest it when I go to sleep. But I think now that I've unloaded this record, that I'll be able to dream again. I haven't had too many dreams lately.
You mentioned